Good morning, everybody. So recently I had this problem that I had to pass a bunch of constants from the backend to the frontend, and I decided that, hey, this problem could be potentially abstracted away, and I decided to create a package. So today I would like you to join me in the journey to create that package. So let's get started. Okay, so we'll start on GitHub, and what we are going to do is we are going to use Spotty Starter. So the way it works is basically, they provide a code that you can use to create a starting place for your Laravel or your Laravel package. So let's use it and let's create a new repository. So I will just create it here and let's call it Laravel enums to JSON. Let's call it that. And let's just create it and follow all of the steps that we need to do. I'm pretty sure I created this as a private package. So let me just make sure to change the visibility to public. And it's done. Okay. So first of all, we need to copy that package locally. So let me just open my terminal and let's go to desktop, code, composer. And here let's do git clone. We should actually probably make a directory called SAS Laravel and then move Laravel enums to JSON to SAS Laravel. Okay, so now let's do cd SAS Laravel ls cd Laravel enums to JSON. Okay, and right from here, what we can do is call configure PHP. Let's change the permission so we can run it, and now let's run it. Okay, so the outer name will be SAS Laravel, email will be contact@saslaravel.com. Outer name is fine, vendor name is fine, vendor namespace. That's cool. Package name, yeah. Class name, okay. This package generates a JSON file of values from enum. Will PHP stand? No. Sure. No. Okay, so let's install all of that. Okay, so now our project should be ready. So let's just open it in our editor. So what we can see here is basically a starter that the Spotty team has come up with. So let's just use it. And what our package should do is basically, let me just open some code. So we don't need any views, we don't need database, so we need config, and then in our src, probably don't need that, but let me just create it like a test enum. What we want to do is basically have a couple of cases here. So, let's just do test1 equals something. Oh, we set int. So let's do 0. Test2 equals 1. Test 3 equals 5. Now, what we want to do is basically do something like enum to JSON, and when our enum has something like this, it will create a file with all of these values in a given folder. So basically, thanks to it, we can easily share the data between backend and the frontend when your frontend is like a Next project or something like that. Or you can upload them to S3 or, do whatever you want. So yeah, let's get started. And to actually get started, we'll use another package from Spotty. And the class is called PHP Structure Discoverer. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to basically scan a project for a given class. Let's remove our test enum, and now let's just run composer require. And we have our project installed. So here we have a command, and let's change the signature so it's something like, enum to JSON generate. The description here would be something like it creates a JSON file of from attributed enums. Now we want to, use this basically to discover all of the enums. So the way we can do it is do something like this, enums, and use this class from the package that we just installed. We want enums with attributes, and now we need to create our attribute. So in our src, I'm going to create a new directory called attributes. And in here, I will create a PHP class called enum2json. And this will be a class, and it will be an attribute. So now, instead of using a variable here, let's do with attribute enum2json class. And this should, get us a list of all of the attributes. Okay, so before we start anything, there is a big problem with that. Maybe, somebody has a big project and they don't want to scan the entire directory. So let's move this thing to the config. So as you can see, we have a default config here. And in here, let's do something like enum locations. And by default, let's just, use app path here, and that's probably fine. And now what we should be able to do here is to config enums2json enums location. Make sure to destructure that because it will accept a list of directories. Okay, so basically what we want to do after that is get the JSON representation of that enum and then generate a file on given disk. Okay, so maybe let's make the disk configurable here. Let's default it to public. Maybe let's add a comment so everybody knows what this is doing. The disk defined in file system.php, where JSON files will be stored. And on top of that, we probably also need a path. So let's do shared, and this would be folder on which the JSON files will be generated. So here there is this facade that we don't really need, but maybe let's keep it for now. We need to probably customize the service provider. We don't have views, we don't have migration, we do have a commands and a config file. So that's cool, we can just keep it here. Okay, so maybe let's extract this to a separate function. So maybe something like this, get qualified enums, and let's create a helper. Protected function, get qualified enums. And this would basically, return all of that. Maybe let's do something like this and return a collection. So collect enums. And this obviously returns a collection. So let's just add that return type. We can just do something like each. And inside of this each, we'll have a callback. And in here, we'll get a string of enum. And here we can do some of the logic. So first of all, this will be an enum, but it will be like a fully qualified path name, which in PHP we can basically use as classes in a sense. So maybe what we can do to make the type hint better is also say that it will be a backed enum. This way we'll get a better autocomplete. So we need to generate a file name. So, file name could be string of enum, class base name, snake, append .json, and then cast it to string. The way we can do it is basically have like an output. And then, maybe to like prevent naming collision, we could do something like if output which we have to add to our use. If that file name already exists, then we would like throw an exception. If not, we would just add something new here. And let's just extract this to a function. So we could do this, prepare enum data, and then we could pass the enum. Oops. Let's just add this method here, make it protected, because why not? And we'll basically return collect enum cases. And we're getting this because, of this type hint. And we'll just map it. So an element will return a label. So this would be element name and then the value. So it would be element value. Do we need it to be a collection though? I mean, yeah, that's fine, I guess. Okay, so here we'll push that collection to our outputs. We probably don't need this enum variable, so let's remove that. We have the JSON representation. I mean, not yet, but we have the data. So now we need to generate a file on this disk. So basically the way we'll do it is for each output as file name contents. So yeah, on the right side, we'll have the contents, and what we basically need to do is just take the disk from our storage. So the config enums to JSON disk, and we need to put to our path. So the config path slash, and then we can do something like ltrim file name. Then remove the slash from here. And then the second argument would be JSON encode contents. Okay, and I added this ltrim here because we'll probably give the user the ability to customize the name for a file, but we'll get to that in a second. I just wanted the code to be prepared. Actually, the same thing from using this. You know what? I think we can even do something like string replace // to string. This should also work. Okay, and now we just need to generate, I'm sorry, we need to like log something meaningful to the user. So maybe let's do this info generated counts outputs files. Output is always empty at this point. All right, that's because we need to pass it by reference to here, and this should solve our problem. And here we need to throw the exception, so we can, either throw like a built-in exception, or we can create a new directory called exceptions. And here we can create Laravel enum to JSON exception, whatever. Let's make sure that it's a class that extends exception. And here we can add like a public static function called name collision maybe. And this would return new self. There was a collision of names. Can spell. Jesus, collision of names. And here maybe we can pass the name. This would be a string. So this would basically allow us to throw Laravel enum to JSON exception, name collision, and then pass the file name. So now let's give the user the ability to customize the name. So let's extract this to a function called generate file name. Let's pass the enum, and let's just use PHP Storm to generate that. So from here, by default, we'll still do this. And if somebody wants to customize it in an enum, I guess they need to create like a public static function. I think there's no better way to do that. So let's just start with that. If there is a better way, just let me know. But yeah, if there method exists in an enum called JSON file name, then we can return a string of enum JSON file name. Just make sure to finish that with .json, and let's return to string so it always has a consistent return type. So yeah, now we will generate the file name, and I'm pretty sure it should be good. So what I will do is I will open another project and try and use this command. Okay, so in my another project, I will just go to my composer.json file, and from here, I will just paste this code because I always forget what this is. And let me just rename this to come on, composer Sass Laravel. Is that the correct path? Let me just check. No, it's Sass Laravel. And let's use composer require. Composer require Sass Laravel enums to JSON, and I think that's how you. The URL supplied for the path does not exist. Oh, shit, that's a problem. Because this product uses Docker, so on Docker, the composer wouldn't know that it's there. So let's just do composer require Sass Laravel enums to JSON. Yeah, so you have to make a space, and now it will work. And as you can see, it actually uses a symlink instead of pulling from GitHub. So yeah, what we'll do here is I will create a new driver here. I will call it next. Wait. I will call it next. And this should be a local driver app base path frontend shared. No URL, the visibilities doesn't matter really, I think. So yeah, let's do PHP artisan vendor publish to publish our config file. Let's do 14 enums to JSON. So here's our configuration. And let's change the disk to next. And we should probably drop this all together. Okay, so I have no clue if this will work. Okay, so let me just run the command. Generated 0 files. That's great because we don't have any attribution. So let's go to our cast type, and from here we can add the attributes. So let's do enum to JSON. And now let's run this file. Generate this one file. Wow. Wait. Cast. Just move it. Come on. So it's generated the file here. It's in the proper folder. So it's in frontend then shared. And now we can easily import that file on the front end and basically, have a way to use it there easily. And now we don't have to create APIs that pass this around. We can just generate a static file. So this is pretty poggers. Now let's see if the way to customize the name actually works. So let me just go here. So yeah, and let's use the JSON file name. So here we can do public static function, JSON file name, and basically return custom name cast. Custom name cast.json. It works. And if we add that JSON here, does it still use the same one? Yeah, it does. Okay, that's cool. That was easy. Maybe what would be cool is creating like filters so you could customize the way it's formatted or something like that. But honestly, for my use case, this is completely fine. So let me just now like do all of the annoying work, like customizing the README. Okay, so I just styled the README. Let me just git add it, git commit, v1, git push. All right, so our project is now on GitHub, which we can see here. And yeah, now we just need to publish that on Composer. So let's just on the packages. Okay, so after we create the account and verify the email, what we can do is we can just copy the GitHub URL, paste it here, click check, and now it's live. Woohoo! All right, thank you guys so much for today, and see you in the next one. Bye.